Hey guys, it's me, Michael Lenoci. Make sure you check out some of my upcoming shows. Tickets at michaellenoci.com.
All right, Miami Dolphins reaction video. That is I don't know why, but that doesn't hurt as much as last week's loss for some reason. Even though we had Tua and I was expecting us to win for sure. But you know what? Before we even get started, I'm going to let you guys know something. I'm not here to sink the ship or start coming down on McDaniel or Greer or Tua or the Miami Dolphins at all. As long as the football season is around and we got 3 more months of it, all of November, December, and January, I'm allowed to be as delusional as long as possible. So if I can be delusional as long as possible, the longest I can be delusional for is 1 more week. So I have 1 more week of being delusional, and I'm going to choose my take on this, my reaction video of this. If you are looking for complaints, that's not happening. I'm letting you know that I'm going to be delusional for 1 more week because that's how I look at this situation. Okay, yes, we're 2-5. Offense was better. It was more efficient. Sure, there were some mishaps. Tua's fumble that causes the bad snap. Tua wasn't ready for it. That safety ultimately is the cost of the game. Defensively, they just were not there for us this week for the first time. They were there for us 4 weeks in a row, and then defensively, they couldn't make a play twice when we needed them to. We needed them to make a play twice. 2 third downs picked up by Kyler Murray, and even that last one that he picks up as I watched the replay, it almost looked like we were going to stop them. They're going to kick a field goal, and we're going to have a chance to get in field goal range with no timeouts left and maybe like a minute left. And that would have been fun to see. I would have loved to see if they were able to even get down in field goal range and get a game-winning field goal, but we didn't even get that opportunity. So my first thoughts are, is the season over? No, it's not. Technically, it's not because of what else happened around the AFC. So that is something you have to be aware of. And like I said, I'm going to be a little bit delusional, but just looking at the game, we showed a spark on offense, okay? The run game was still there. Offensively, he was getting the ball around. How many different wide receivers caught the ball? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I believe, if I'm not mistaken, 7 different people touched the ball on offense, which is good. You're spreading the ball out. Offensive run game was there. Excuse me. Tyreek got the ball. Waddle had a drop. I can't remember if that drop ended up costing us and we had to kick a field goal or if we ended up getting a first down and ended up scoring on that drive anyways. Correct me if I'm wrong. But overall, the offense was like, all right, for someone who hasn't played in a football game in 4 or 5 weeks, not bad. Not bad. Defensively, you just hope they would have. That was a situation where we were missing Jalen Phillips. You wanted, hey, where is this defensive end that's going to make a big sack or a big play? Especially when we got a holding call on that last drive to make it 1st and 20. So that's very frustrating. But the reason I'm not going to panic yet is because I thought the offensive side of the ball showed us that, like, hey, we're going to be in all these games going forward. Yes, we're 2-5. Yes, there's 10 games left. Yes, you would probably have to go 9-1 or 8-2 to make the playoffs. And yes, the schedule is more difficult than people think it is. I know that people think we have an easy schedule. That's not necessarily the case. I don't care if the Jets are 2-6. You still have to play them twice. You have to play the Bills. You have to play the Rams. You have to play the Browns, who look like a totally different team with Jameis Winston. You have to play Houston. You have to play in Green Bay. And you have to play the Patriots and Raiders. Okay, so there's only 2 probably ones that you're like, oh, you should win those. So that puts you at 4 wins, right? The other 7... the other 8 are all toss-ups, Given the way the season's gone, you can't say any of those are for sure wins. Any of those games could be a toss-up, just like today was a toss-up for us. Until you see us have a dominant form of offense, all these games are toss-ups. going forward. There's no automatic wins. We're not a team that can sit there and say we should win that. We can only say that with two teams, and that's the Raiders and Patriots going forward if Tua is healthy and we have this offense going. So it puts you at 4 wins. Realistically, the way things are looking, do I think 9 wins get you in the play? I don't. I think you have to get to 10-7. I think you have to get to 10-7 for the 7th seed. Okay? That being said, you have 2 losses. You got to go 8-2. Okay? You got to go 8-2. Here's the plus side. Okay? Denver's 5-3. All right? Let's assume Kansas City, Houston, Buffalo, and Pittsburgh all make the playoffs. Right? Let's assume those are a lock. Right? Because of the way they're playing and what their schedule is. So you got Chiefs winning the division, Houston are winning the division, Buffalo winning the division, and then Pittsburgh winning their division. Right now they're in first because the Ravens lost, and then or Pittsburgh or Ravens with the wild card. So then you have the Denver Broncos. Okay, let me just tell you this: rookie quarterback. I know they've overachieved. They're 5-3. Their next few games at Ravens, coming off a loss, tough game for the Broncos. I would think that gives the Broncos their 4th loss. The following week they play the Chiefs. Yeah, they could beat them, but you got to think it gives them their 5th loss, which would be our 5th loss. Then you have the Falcons, not an easy win. That could go either way. And then you have the Raiders, which you expect them to win. And then you have the Browns, who we don't know yet, but you would expect them to win. But also, if Winston continues to play this good, then they're just as equal. Then you have the Colts. They cancel each other out. You need both of them to lose anyways, so that helps. And then you have the Chargers. You need both of them to lose, so that helps out because they're in the wild card. And then you have the Bengals. Regardless of the Bengals being out of it, they're 3-5. They're still fighting. They're thinking like Miami Dolphin fans. Okay? And then they have the Chiefs. So I am not worried about the 5-3 Broncos. Okay? Next, I have the Chargers. And all of this will come to a conclusion at the end. And this is why I will say I can be delusional for one more week. I will get back to the Dolphins, but I want to talk about the other teams and how hard and difficult their schedules are, and how, if you're listening to this, you would have to agree that those are a lot of games that the Broncos would struggle against. Okay? To sit here and say they're 5-3 and they overachieved, I think we could agree they have. To sit here and think that they're not going to win at least 3 more games, that's crazy with that schedule. The Chargers have the Browns next week, which we don't know. Titans, a little bit of an easier schedule. But then they have the Bengals, Ravens, Falcons, Chiefs, Bucks, Broncos. That's a streak of an offensive team that doesn't look explosive, and it looks like they kind of could lose some games as well. They have 3 losses. We're only 2 games out. This is part of the reason of being delusional. Now, do we have to go on a big win streak? Yes, but this is why I'm pointing out these other teams' schedules. The Colts are 4-4, another team ahead of us. They have the Vikings, the Bills, the Jets, the Lions. Just that alone could give them 5 or 6 losses, okay? I don't even have to go that far into the schedule, okay? And then you have the Bengals ahead of us, who have Raiders, Ravens, Chargers, Steelers, Cowboys, Titans, Browns. Maybe there's a loss in there. That doesn't matter because they have 5 losses anyways. We're only a half game back of them. My point is, I have a right to be delusional, because if the Dolphins win next week, if they just win 2 in a row, we're right there. And then there's no panicking. That's why I'm not going to panic yet, because what if? I remember a team that was 1-7 and they won 7 in a row and won 8-7. And that was with a horrible offense, but a very good defense. So if our defense can play above average and our offense can play above average, there's no reason I don't think that we can do something. Now, we haven't won in Buffalo in years. I understand that. And I do understand that if we do lose in Buffalo, that is the season. I will come on here next week and I will sit here and say, hey, let's talk about the future. Because the trade deadline is 2 days after the Buffalo game on Election Day, November 6th. So if we lose to Buffalo, you might expect a busy week with Miami. If they're 2-6, you might see some trades. And I don't know what they would trade. I don't know who. I haven't heard anything. But off assumption, you got Javon Holland on the last year of his contract. Are you going to pay him? I don't know if he's worth the pay. He's good, but I don't hear his name enough. He doesn't make enough big plays for me. That's one person. Jalen Ramsey, a vet that could go to a Super Bowl contending team. Do they want to take that contract on? I don't know. But someone might. Someone might who wants to win. Whether it's the Ravens or the Lions or someone, in the NFC that feels like if they have that kind of star power that can get them a Super Bowl, you would take on that contract. Okay? There's two guys right there. Then you have your wide receivers. Now you think you're going to keep both of them. You've invested everything in this offense, right? Between Tua, Tyreek, Waddle, and McDaniel. So if this isn't going to work and you're going to move on from it, you have to move on from all of them. That's where I don't think Dolphin fans understand. If you're going to move on from McDaniel when they're like, oh, we're going to fire. If you fire McDaniel, then you might as well get rid of Tua and Tyreek and Waddle. Because nobody's going to run the offense the way McDaniel does with these players. We've went all in with this offense. So you got to keep McDaniel and run it back with him and at least maybe draft a quarterback behind Tua. Or if you move on from McDaniel, then that means you're trading Tyreek and you're trading Waddle. So that would be something to look at. If they lose to the Buffalo Bills, you would have to look at and see, are they trading Tyreek or Jalen Waddle? Because if they are, then that means upstairs, GM possibly, and owner are thinking about moving on from McDaniel. Because if you move on from McDaniel, you're moving on from this offense and you got to bring in a new coach that has to start a new offense. And it's not going to be all this movement stuff. It's going to be more of a typical offense that you see around the league. I don't know. I have no idea really. I'm not an X and O's guy. But my whole thought process is maybe they keep the offense and they move on from a couple defensive players and build up in the draft and they give it one more year. I don't know. But if you lose and you're 2-6, that's it. The locker room's done. It just doesn't make sense to think of firing McDaniel because then you're firing Tua and you're firing Tyreek and Waddle. So if you do lose to the Bills and you're 2-6, I would think you would see a lot of movement in the trade deadline, before the trade deadline for the Dolphins. We would be selling people to build draft capital to rebuild. But if we did start trading offensive players, I'd have to assume that McDaniel was going to get fired. And if McDaniel gets fired, you're stuck with Tua. You trade off some of these wide receivers, some of these defensive players. Maybe Vrabel comes in, someone cool. And then you're like, all right, who are you going to bring in for an offensive coordinator? Or maybe someone under the Mike McDaniel tree that's on our offense is kind of able to keep the offense going when we have a new defensive-minded coach or something. I don't know. It's a whole mess. It's a whole mess that I don't have to think about or talk about for 1 week. So I have a week before I'm going to talk about this explosion. So before that happens, I think I have every right to be delusional for one more week and sit here and say, this is a team that has a chance to change the narrative of what they are from the last 3 seasons and save Mike McDaniel's job and save Tua's legacy. And it comes down to the Buffalo game, winning in Buffalo. You win in Buffalo, you have confidence to go win in LA the next week. You'll be 4-5 in the driver's seat with 3 games against the Jets, the Raiders, and Patriots. Not in that order. It would be like Raiders, Patriots, Jets, or something like that. 3 winnable games. And then you're right there in the driver's seat of making the playoffs. So that's why I'm not going to panic yet. There is a world where this could happen. So that's something to think about. And I'm not going to get all mad and heated and talk about the future as much as I already did until we get there. In the meantime, we're not out of it yet. And I saw enough from the offense to believe something great could happen. So I'm going to be delusional for 1 more week. I've earned that right. I'm 40 years old. I've been a Dolphins fan since I was 10. The first 10 years I'm playing like games and stuff. But you know what? I wasn't as diehard, but I've been a Dolphins fan my whole life. And I've watched them crumble for the last 30 years. So I've earned the right to be delusional for 1 more week. So you guys got to let me have this. You don't have to be delusional. You can get mad. You can say fire the coach, fire the GM, get rid of Tua, do whatever you want. But I feel good. I don't feel as bad as what you guys are feeling for some reason. For some reason, I'm thinking this is part of the journey. This is part of the journey that I've never seen where, hey, I've seen a team go 1-7 and then win 7 in a row, go 8-7. Part of me thinks that maybe there's a chance we can go to Buffalo and they know that this is it. They're treating the Buffalo game like it's their Super Bowl, and if they win that, the confidence this team will have if they can beat Buffalo. That would be beating a winning team on the road in cold weather, going to LA at 3-5. And maybe, obviously, if you beat Buffalo, What does that mean? That means your offense is hitting on all cylinders. You're not beating Buffalo 20-10. If we beat Buffalo, it's 35-31. It's got to be a high-scoring game, and you got to outscore them. And that's how it's going to be the next 2 weeks. If you're going to get yourself out of this hole, you're going to have to score 5 touchdowns. And that's just how it's going to have to be. And if there's a team that can do that, it's this team. You have to believe that. And if you don't want to believe that, that's fine. You have every right not to believe it, and you don't have to watch these. But if you're watching this video, and you watch a lot of other Miami Dolphin videos, then part of you is believing in something. And you want to believe, and you're not being that delusional because you've seen it happen before. So let's take that into the next week before we get all ugly and talk about the past and talk about the future, whatever. That's where I'm at with this game, and I think that's a good head. I think I have a good head on my shoulders for that situation, and I think that everybody can think like that. Okay, I think we could all think like that and just kind of relax. Just relax. No time to panic yet. Let's just see what happens, because as long as look, we're the 10th seed right now. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There's 6 teams below us in the record column. That's crazy. That you're 2-5 and you're the 10th seed. You're literally 2 games back of the 7th seed with 10 games to go. Plenty of time. No need to panic. And if I say this next week after a Buffalo loss, then call me out. But at the Buffalo loss at 2-6, nothing's going to happen. So that's my thoughts on this game. And I'm not worried. I like the way they played. It just, sometimes you got to give it up for a player. And Kyler Murray played a hell of a game. He's a superstar for a reason. So give it up for Kyler Murray. Give it up for Marvin Harrison Jr. Give it up for the Arizona Cardinals. They're in first place of the AFC West. So how about that? How about that? So my hat's off to the Cardinals. They played a great game. They stayed in it. And if anything, they beat us like a good team would beat us. Okay? The last week's loss hurt more, even though Tua wasn't in it, because it felt like we should have won it, and we lost with those 2 fumbles. Yeah, we had 2 chances at the end of the game to put it away. You have the ball, and you all you have to do is get a first down. You have the ball, 1st and 10 at Arizona's 46. You get a first down. You're in field goal range. You could sit there and say we were going to win the game, but you couldn't do it. They put pressure on Tua. They got to us quickly. He had to get rid of the ball. It was a great defensive play call on that final drive, and that's why they won. So hats off to them. Let me know what you guys think. Like and subscribe, and I appreciate it. And hopefully, basketball season's here, but who cares? I guess we're hockey fans in Florida. So, all right, bye, guys.